intervention, à vous poser toutes les questions qui vous intéressent. Oh yes, sorry. Yes, I spoke French, but it is English, which is the. I'm totally sorry. Yes, the lingua franca is English. It's
a bit of brie and a bit of.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you so much, Frédéric, for the invitation, and of course, a warm welcome to all of you. I hope you enjoyed David's work. So we don't say David because he's damn Flemish. It's David Claerbout. Hi, David. How are you?
Good. Actually, I have to say, just like you, I haven't seen the film for more than 10 years, as I said to Fred.
Really?
So it's a bit of a refresh for me as well.
Okay. That's a bit bizarre that an artist doesn't look at his own work for 10 years. What's wrong with it?
It's like if you have 45 children, like I have 45 pieces, you don't look at them all in the same, you just generally you pay most attention to the recent works. That's how it goes. But
because you totally jumped into new work that is also completely different, and we can enjoy that new piece. I think in June it's going to be in the Castle of Glasbeek.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe we can talk about that later. But as you haven't seen your own piece for such a long time.
Oh, I saw it yesterday.
Okay. So what do you think of it? How do you deal with old work? Like,
of course, I see a lot of technical things that I could have improved over the years. But I also realized that there were some things like I wanted people to see a certain kind of artifice. As if it's a construct of some kind after a while. And of course you pay the price for that later, because later you think, oh no, I should have done this more cinematographic or that's also part of leading a life, experimental life. Each film
always ahead of technology maybe, so you're testing out things.
Yes, always testing out new things, indeed, always testing out your own boundaries, often with a small team, out of a kind of guerrilla context, not from within the industry but from outside. But the core of everything, when I saw it again yesterday and today, the core of starting a film has always been the same. It's you don't know, you have no idea what it is that you are embarking upon.
Okay, but then there's a starting point, like there's this square, there's the architecture by Renate Braam, who's quite
yes, we should talk about that.
Architect, but maybe let's start with the family. So you made this choice, I think also because of private reasons, for a Chinese family. Can you tell us something more about that?
So at the time I was together with a Taiwanese woman, and we moved to Antwerp, and my family had become Chinese, Taiwanese. And for the first time it's silly to say that, but I had a sort of intimate contact. I understood the other, and I had a conversation with someone, I can't tell you his name, but who said, I was baffled.
Is he here in the room?
No, he's not here.
Just checking.
And he's of an older generation, and he said, no, it was in French, he said, avec les Chinois, j'en vois un et je les ai vus tous. A story of not being able to relate to, because of different facial expressions or whatever, and I couldn't, but at the same time I understood what he was saying. At the same time I started to get worried about China as a state. And we talk about a long time ago, it's 2007, so I was working on my Centre Pompidou exhibition, and so I felt these two things. I felt like, oh, I'm in the intimate circle and I love my family, and on the other hand I see this big power and I see a kind of cubistic, one could say, a multifaceted camera point of view, which is controlling everybody. Social media were not there yet, so nothing that we take for granted now was there yet, but this multifaceted aspect of being observed from every corner in whatever you do, you let little grains of your own personality into digital devices and on the cloud, and into the power of controlling instances of which you have no idea what their intentions are. So you could say the Chinese state. So it was about developing a shield, intimate shield of, and I called it a happy moment. I know happy is very unsexy. Still, it was back then in 2007 and it's still today. A shield of one could say simplicity. A simple moment in time where two kids are playing and the whole family is gathered, and the only thing that actually unites them is the knowledge that it's all photography, that it's all momentary, that there's a ball in the middle, and as long as this ball is not falling down, you know you're kind of looking at the same instant. But you're all together. It was this thing of being on the one hand very mechanical, very dehumanized, very controlled, very controlling gaze, which I playfully called cubistic, but it could be something else. Maybe the state apparatus, whatever. And on the other hand, the notion of family, the notion of having a shield which no one, nothing could penetrate into, which is inherently human, which is this language that you can have with someone just looking, not saying a word. You know, that's one of this wonderful capacity of our language. Is that that's why we walk upright? Is that we can talk without saying a word. We can communicate without being controlled, and that works even when you are in prison, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So that was the principle. And from sections of a happy moment came other works later. I think I spent, it took until the last piece that I did with this way, with this method, was, how was it called? The confetti piece.
The confetti piece.
Which was about the American elections, which...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if everybody in the room really is conscious about the way it was created. So you're already diving into the technical stuff, but we see like a Chinese family being happy, playing with a ball in this square, this playground of the Renat social housing, the Kiel in Antwerp. But as a matter of fact, these people never saw that square. So maybe you have to start with the family. You found this family in Chinatown in Antwerp?
Yes.
So what do you say? Hi, I'm David Claerbout, and I need for some experiments.
I had a very sweet assistant who is not shy of anything and who just went into every shop and every store and spoke to people and said, could you consider being photographed with your family? And he had this way of doing it which made them trust him. Mm-hmm. And
but maybe not you at the time.
No, that's true, especially if these people came into a studio, which was at that time was very simple, and it was just a few blue screens or green screens, I don't remember. We had
but also like a circle of cameras.
Yes.
We used like 14 or 15 cameras.
15 cameras, which is... We ended, so the whole thing, we started with 15 cameras and we ended with 50. So we kind of got a bit more professional over the years. And so they came there and we shot them. We tried several things. I like not to work by the book. Often I don't have an idea what I want to do really.
You don't act as a real director.
No, and I've got a lot of irritation with my team sometimes. Especially with people who come from the film industry. It was like, where is his plan? Yeah. And sometimes they are right, but sometimes I am right too. And that that changed also over the years, and then so we photographed them. We made about 500 shots times 15, so it's a lot. And then I went looking for the building, and I wanted social housing because I thought, well, it doesn't have to be China, but it does have to be. It actually has to be one of these architectural studies that are better worked out than the average Asian megapolis.
But Renat Braun is a socialist architect. So.
Yes, Renat Braun was one. In Berlin there were several of these complexes which were rather ideal. But of course Braun was just around the corner. And I started reading about him, and I started seeing the early images of this complex. And I fell in love with it. I thought it's actually really, it has everything that I was looking for. It has a center, which is a little square, and then it has these socialist sculptures pointing towards the air, which brought me to the girl, the girl catching the ball. There's also formalist aspect to it.
There's this playful of the family.
Yes.
And then quite hard edge.
Yes, and
formal elements by the architecture.
It's always like in a missed encounter. Normally, what you will have in if you are a real cinematographer, you will focus on emotions, and you will focus on. You want to bring your spectator to a certain point. But I always make films from two different vantage points that are in conflict with one another. And that has always been a constant, even back then, with Sections of a Happy Moment, already very much outspoken. I wanted on one hand this aspect of the happy, uneventful moment, and on the other hand, this transformation that you get when you look at a lot of photography, one slide after the other, and the people become petrified. They become stone-like. They lose their photography.
Become sculptures.
Yeah, and they become sculptures
like
and
cast material.
Yes, and then there is the sound, of course, which is I always called it a CLD. Do you know what CLD is? What that stands for, by any chance? A career limiting decision. And I got that from.
I write it down.
From my dear friend Ian McGilchrist, and who, when you do something that you know in advance, the style police will be very upset about. And in my case, it was this free, downloadable piano solo music.
Yeah, but it's awful music.
Elevator music.
It's really awful.
It's music made for, it's like music.
Not even elevators. It's even not good enough for an elevator.
Yeah, it tastes like a single taste of cherry. It's like nothing more than that. Eh?
Yeah, but you did it in several of your pieces.
Yeah.
Why is it so important to use like this mediocre music that you call like a career limiting decision? You still have a big career, so it was quite.
No. I paid a big price for it.
Really?
Yeah. I had several people coming to me admitting they didn't purchase this work for their museum because of the sound, and they wanted to know what was my intentions with this sound. Because after many years they realized I'm not, I'm not just about music. They realized that the music was there for a reason. And it's there because it connects at moments it connects to the family topic, to the family album that you look with tears in your eyes after 25 years. They're all gone or divorced or whatever. And on the other hand, the mechanical part. Because for you it's upsetting, this music. It's just mechanics. It's melodious.
And therefore it connects, of course, with the way that you are depicting these Chinese family.
Yes.
It's all artificial.
It's between.
It's real people, but then you dehumanize them in a way.
Yes.
You don't like humans acting like humans in your pieces?
No.
Sometimes, I may not even say movies. You don't like a narrative?
It depends what kind of narrative. I like a narrative after a good knockout. You know, after you've been punched in the head severely,
Okay.
and then a narrative. But not in the type of knockout that would come like a shock, because I'm totally anti-shock, but rather like after you wouldn't have had too much sugar or something like that. But a different type of knockout.
Let's go back to the way these people were like shot in the studio with the 15 cameras and so on. As a matter of fact, and also this connects to the picture of the piece that is on display here at Friedrich's exhibition. You use the same tools of the Chinese government, you could say. It's also like, it's framing people, it's...
Yes, it's you could accuse them of something.
It's like a security camera that is like...
It's indeed the method of the security camera, also often the wide angle. And when you do a crop, it's often very pixelated, as if it's a crop from a surveillance camera. But initially I had thought, before the music came in, I had thought of it as a sequence of barit printed photographs, precisely the size that of the works that are in Friedrich's collection. But then it became impossible because it became 180 photographs. So I had to dissolve them in time. And then soon I realized that, okay, you know, that's a transition between the status of the photograph and the status of the artifice or the object, which is no longer a photograph and which is no longer a person of flesh and blood, but which is a person that has been observed by a bigger power. You know? It's just, you could shoot it down, you could put it in a book, you could put it in an archive. It's no longer family.
Time is one of your obsessions, of course, and that's also very clear in the film. You play with this element of time. We could look at it just a second ago. All of a sudden there are like longer closes on, for example, the father. I was just looking at it, but okay, now I get it, because he takes some more time, and then the guy is really freezing in the image.
Yeah, this montage chapter is too long ago to know exactly what was the... but at that time it was, I designed it to be pretty random.
Okay.
Like the emotional build-up, I wanted it to be something that was emotionally also degradable. And so I still do that now. Like in the piece that we are producing now at the studio, I still have this take on footage. I trust it, and I jump in it wherever. It doesn't matter. I don't have to have a plan. I just, and so the editing does itself. The editing makes it.
Was the editing already done then by like a kind of artificial intelligence?
In myself, I'm not artificially intelligent, and also claim that's the reality of technology. That we speak now as artificial intelligence, as a technology, but we forget that we have become artificial intelligence since a long time. That's why we allow the technology into our lives. The same for digital. You know, we forget that we had enough of memories that were heavy and hard and on paper, and that we wanted to dissolve them into.
Is that also like a reason that for almost every piece you make, you then at a certain moment you draw again, you make drawings about the pieces? Because you were trained as a painter, David, and I'm always a bit scared, like how can I introduce you? You're not a photographer, but you use photography. You're not a filmmaker, but you're making movies. And you're not,
Yeah.
you are a painter, but you don't paint.
I'm an experimentalist.
But you draw.
But I draw, and maybe on paper is the only moment where I'm, you know, they say that from people who draw or paint. A lot of people paint, but let's say in my case, drawing is that you're always 16, or you're always 18. You're always the age that you were when you first started. It's like, you know, it's like somebody being very good at football or playing clarinet. You're always the same age as you were when you first acquired your skills. And that's the kind of passion that I have with drawing. In a way, it's the most conservative way of dealing with the motifs that I'm making. I was ashamed of it for many years because
Ashamed?
Yeah, properly ashamed of my drawings. I never wanted to exhibit them, or even the photographs were difficult because I had really kind of aversion against things on paper for a long time.
And then it changed.
And I was absolutely a digital monster.
Maybe we have to go back to your decision to abuse cinema in a way.
Well, you cannot abuse cinema. You can abuse the religious, traditional part of cinema. You can abuse the, let's say, the 90-minute scheme, or you can cut the sound. That's already a big shock. Cinema without sound is a real handicap. So you can do those things, but for the rest, I think cinema is, or the mechanics of film are so simple that they allow you, they invite you to do anything. What they say is, basically, I am like Laura Mulvey said many years ago so beautifully, I am an inorganic trace of life. I am a manifestation of life that doesn't pretend to be decaying, that doesn't pretend to be organic, but I am mechanical. So I am chronological. I am part of all these technologies here for which we need frequencies and 25 frames per second or whatever. And the beauty of film is that, or any technology that obeys that religion, this kind of chronometry that says, yes, I will appear as long as I pray to you, big God of Chronos. Anything that does that gets in return, gets rewarded by a lot of, on a narrative level, you get a lot of liberty. As long as you don't have to go to the cinema, because that's a trade-off. When you're in cinema, people start throwing Rotten Tomatoes at this kind of work that I make. It's duration that pretends to be duration deluxe.
Did you never show any of your movies in even an art house cinema? I remember I saw the Bordeaux piece in the cinema.
Ah, yeah.
We had to be patient, David, but we were all there.
But you were these aliens from, Man in Black series. You were these nice people. The majority of people who go and sit in front of a big screen have expectations that the value of their time is rather monumental. And I treat time as something that you would treat time that you would treat in a way before the invention of cinema. Huh? I'm more of a photo-nostalgic kind of person.
Yeah. And you also like playing with the expectations of the viewer, because from the moment you sit down in a chair and there's a big screen, you have expectations that are cinematographic. And then one should be always very disappointed by your work.
Yeah.
But you have, of course, big fans because you're turning everything upside down, David.
Disappointment is so important as a phenomenon to get over. like a little bit of. It took me years to appreciate L'année dernière à Marienbad. Just actually until a few, well, by Alain.
Yeah.
It took me years, and I always imagine this is what happening to people looking at my films, is that, you know,
yeah.
Be patient with them and just accept the Rotten Tomatoes and. What I'm really from, I'm the European continental side. I'm definitely not the sort of Anglo-Saxon part of filmmaking where it's a little bit like waiting for a life-changing moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't do that. Life-changing moments are plentiful. But maybe not in cinema.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the second piece you made, also called Sections of Happy Moment, but then all of a sudden it was shot in Alger.
Yeah.
Crazy story, because you asked the photographer to take pictures of a terrace there, so it was not your job, he did the job for you.
We have good memory.
Well, you told me once.
Oh, okay.
And so you were there or this guy was there at a very good moment, because otherwise this terrace, it changed some weeks later, full of graffiti, and you needed this white.
Oh yeah, that's right.
White.
The thing was, they started
atmosphere.
filming a film.
Oh, yeah.
A few days after he had done his work, and it became a well-known film, but I forgot what it was, and therefore it was completely transformed.
Yeah. But so how did you go from the happy moments in Antwerp to the happy moments in Alger? It's like here we see this a series of photographs.
Yeah.
And there is already a movie.
Yeah, you start to understand better the mechanics of what you want. So I usually work like that in this small series of 2, 3, maybe 4, maybe 5, if I'm really uninspired. But because each of these pieces take a lot of time to produce. And so I started to understand the mechanics of the sections of a happy moment here. And then I thought, okay, let's get a little bit more explicit. So I started, I lived, so we had the Chinese family, yeah? And I moved then, I had moved from Berlin, I had moved into a neighborhood which is mainly Moroccan neighborhood in Antwerpen. In fact, the back window is all Orthodox Jewish, and the other part it's a wonderful community actually. And I started to talk to the kids that are on my doorstep all the time. At that time, not. Nowadays, there's a lot of drug dealing, but at that time, not. They were really like young kids. Our doorstep was the corner of the street where everybody met one another. So I knew all the kids, and they just gave me the idea of. It was just the same idea, family. And the strange thing was, I could ask them in secret, and they came, and they didn't know what it was for. They came to the same studio, better specialized. By then we had like 30 cameras or something like that, and we were better prepared, a bigger team, better lighting, and Amokran Marish, who was my Algerian assistant at that time, and who did this wonderful photography. Not so easy, by the way, because he had to climb all these houses.
It's really like in the Kasbah.
Next to, yes, everywhere in the Kasbah, he had to ask all these permissions to people to get in. What the hell are you doing here, etc. But he did wonderful work, and I was able to coordinate better the points of view that Amokran had recorded, and that we were planning in the studio. I don't remember what we did first. I think we did first the Casbah of Algiers, and then we did the studio work.
With the children.
But the parents never knew of the kids that I just paid them, and they were happy for it. But their parents never knew that, because generally they're not so sympathetic to be photographed.
Yeah, of course. This afternoon I was looking in one of your many books that you published, and I saw all these pictures about the way the children were like filmed in your studio, and then all the angles that you used. What a work, David! I mean,
Almost
it's sometimes
2 years.
crazy. I mean, if you stayed a painter, your life would have been so much easier.
Yeah, but that's the joy that I have by drawing, is that it does get easier during the winter months when I can draw. So I'm a bit entschädigt, as we say in German, because of that. But yeah, it's the thing about labor. Huh? That's what cinema still does. It's bigger than life. And what you get always as a side message from film, you always get like, look what we did for your eyes and for this moment. And look where we bring you. It's always this, that's quite incredible. You just, you know, it's like the Van Eyck altar. You didn't have to travel far. You just went to the altar and you were traveling. So we're in the same system. And now I forgot what I wanted to say.
I don't know what you wanted to say.
The labor.
The labor.
So the amount of labor and effort, which has always been part of cinema, is that look, the stars come to you, look what this incredible world that comes to you, full of wonders, full of contingency. Things can go in many directions.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something inherent about the camera. You can be the best director in the world and make the best film, but it's inherent in the camera is that whenever you have the belief in optics, you have a belief in a certain contingency. Anything can happen. And I always thought that was fantastic about this device. Is that like with this Wim Wenders film, you have a guy strapping a camera on his backpack and he goes around the world, and that's his life. Mm-hmm. He's filming the world from his back. But labor, the effort that you put in can also be used in a different way, without delivering instantly this message that, look, we've done something, we've brought you to this amazing place. It can deliver this message far slower, as with a kind of delay, and this is what I was interested in.
Yeah, if we look at the work like Olympia, we have to wait another, I don't know, 900 years, 70,
980. We are we are 11 years now. 11 of 1,000 years.
So you even put labor in something that is not going to be seen by your own generation or even by yourself.
Yeah, that's the beauty about time. This is so flexible, so malleable.
Yeah.
Time doesn't exist. Let's face it, we know chronometric time.
Yeah.
There's no, we also say we have kind of organic time, diurnal time. But in fact, I read a bit about that. There's no evidence that our bodies have a clock time or behave like clock time. On the contrary, our bodies adapt amazingly to weeks and weeks and weeks in darkness, or weeks and weeks and weeks in light.
But we die in the end, no?
Yes,
so
of course, yeah.
Time.
We do. There's probably
nobody
knows, but there's probably this wonderful reason why we sleep, regenerative reason, but nobody really knows. We can.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, no, it was only like 2 years ago, I think. You had your show here at Greta Meert, just around the corner.
Year.
Was it last year?
Yeah.
Okay. birdcage with the amazing house that was really like exploding. And then there was the work with the tree that was growing backwards. So with Olympia, you went like ahead of time, and then with that tree, you went backwards. But I thought when you see like Fragments of a Happy Moment, you also see like the small trees on the square of Renate Brown's social housing. So you had to transform all these trees who are in reality completely different.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, but that's funny because I thought, well, there was the roots maybe of your first tree piece.
Well, it was before that. It starts in 1996 or 1995. I filmed my first tree. But what I forgot is that when I went to film these buildings, or to photograph, these buildings in Antwerpen, by that time it was erected around 1950, after 1958, I think. After
58, 59.
Something like that. And so between then, these young trees, which I call them the witnesses of the marriage, of the festive marriage photographs of urban photography. They're like always there. The young trees are always there. They're always there.
They're like future.
They're like the little girls and boys in the photographs of the marriage. You know, they're always there to remind you that it's once upon a time a wonderful day. And then the trees get massive, and I had to Photoshop all these trees away. Of course, I wanted to have all these. Nowadays, maybe we could use AI, but that was not. I doubt that we could use AI in a proper way.
Okay. And you because time is running fast here, David, you really became also obsessed with optics, but also with neurosciences, brain science.
Yeah,
what do you want to tell about that? And how is your work now related to this kind of? Because you read about it, you know, all the specialists around the globe who.
But I did a very simple exercise. At one point, because I felt like 15 years ago when I started writing and reading a little bit about this phenomenon that I call dark optics, which is happening now, or.
In what way is this happening now? Can you explain?
It's kind of so we are very social creatures, and we depend. I mentioned the term family. We need familiarity with the phenomena around us much more than we think. We think we use our eyes to navigate the world, but actually we use a model of the world to navigate the world, and we use our eyes to verify. So point one is that the myth that our eyes are cameras is wrong.
Okay.
Did
everybody get that?
Well, that was a very fast way of going in there. But we are our brains are prediction machines. They are not essentially storages of memories. Memory is a very flexible thing, and our optical part is really a minor, important, but a minor part of the way we experience the world. You know, what we call visual culture is actually not visual culture at all. It's culture of decoding and of. But actually, I don't want to speak about that. What I want to speak about is about this thing that I always say photography broke my heart, because it's being born with this device that's a camera. Is not going to happen to, let's say, your grandchildren. They will be born with a culture that's no longer where this notion of a unifying room, chamber, literally, which is the device, is no longer going to exist. And one could say it's a history of about 175 years of optics. Optics and verifiable optics. That were always kind of independent judge. They were never that. They were always very biased. Any camera image is very biased. Regardless of that, we conceived it as being neutral and as being familiar. When I look at this image.
But now we're trained in decoding images because we know that they don't speak the truth. That's what we always suspect from photography, that they show us a kind of reality. It's not
Exactly.
obvious, of course.
We get hyper trained in decoding, and we get a lack of probing.
Yeah.
And that's the difference with when you had this tripartite between the author, the subject, and the device. You had a mutual, what we call mutual authentication. You didn't have to ask questions, even if there was falsification in it. You knew there was a moment in time where something had happened. And now finally we get back to an age where I always say like the 19th century pre-photography time, where we finally accept the construct part. But we accept it in a very organic manner. It's easy to say, yes, I understand it. And this Claerbout is always talking about technology. No, I'm not talking about technology. I'm talking about what you do in your roots with the understanding and the living with the changes. And that's dark optics. That's and it has social and political implications that we start seeing.
That you could connect as well to the exhibition here.
Yes, certainly. Which is going to be, I always say...
Are you scared of anything?
I was never scared. I always thought, I'm still not really scared today, I think. I do think that visual intelligence is, nobody reads, and you need to read to develop properly your intelligence, but I'm very confident that, Willem Flusser said that ages ago, the philosopher, is that visual intelligence should never be underestimated because it's super fast, it's lightning fast. And don't forget that all other animals use this visual intelligence just the way we do. It's language which is the big liar. And language is also the beautiful, it's beautiful phenomenon.
Yeah, another career limiting decision of yours was making a screensaver with the name Virus.
Oh yeah, that's a long time
Yeah,
ago.
but it's also funny because if I think what's happening here in the exhibition, it's quite a crazy story.
Well,
you got censured.
Yes, we got kicked out. It was Dia Foundation that commissioned a small piece. It was the beginning of the internet, really. It was in 1996.
And who was there? David Claerbout.
And I wanted to develop a virus.
To test it out.
So I wanted to develop a virus that hijacks your desktop for a week, and it was basically nothing else but, this talking about confidence. There's nothing else than a file, a small program that you download from the internet, and it's a flower. It's just how do you say snijbloem.
Een snijbloem. Iemand in het Engels?
A freshly cut flower. And you put it into the bottle and you let it decay.
Yeah.
And we filmed it. We made a time lapse of it, and actually it's in.
After a week it would disappear.
And after it gets sadder and sadder, and it disappears and it leaves a seed, and that seed is just but the deal was you couldn't change your desktop for a week, so you couldn't just trash it. It prevented the freedom of trashing it. It couldn't be trashed. I wanted to find something organic time. And so the Americans said, no, you can't do that. And so it was called Friendly Virus, but...
it didn't work.
No.
Anyway, nice try.
No, nice
but
try.
it didn't ruin your career anyway. We promised to leave some space here for questions from the audience. So who has a question for David on his work, on dark optics? Neuroscience. Here's your man.
To start.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the image was fake, and so that's something that's kind of known topic.
All images are fake.
Yeah, all the images are fake. I was actually shocked when learned for the first time that the image was fake, and that so it was made in two different moments. For me, the most important one was at the beginning was the architectural, and then I realized that it was not so important. But regarding this fake, do you think that in order to be true, you have to be fake? And I have, let's say, one kind of illustration that maybe you could use is, or you could reflect on, are the two very different works that are in your back. One is a series of real moments which have been taken by kind of amateur photograph of real people in Vietnam who intended for him to tell something about Vietnam, and the other one is a very staged photograph by Shirin Neshat, where nothing is real. And which one do you think is more efficient? Is it the real one, or is it the fake one? And is it because it's fake that it is stronger?
Okay, you're throwing a lot of big concepts on the table.
But this is also from a movie.
Yeah, it is also from a movie.
So
yes.
That's already like a tricky one, I think. Yeah.
So you're throwing
a lot of elements. Yes.
So fake is a big one. It occupies all of us. Real is another one, which we're all struggling with. I mean, any image is an artifice. The shocking truth is that we rely on artifice heavily to navigate the world. We don't rely on the real. We do, our conscious experience says this is real. I can safely do this. I can safely go there. I can safely walk through Brussels. But actually, we don't work like that. We constantly rely on models that we fill in, that we verify. We don't have to verify them. We do it unconsciously. We do it automatically.
But give an example. Because people are now worrying, like, I walk the street, I feel safe, but this guy here yesterday told me that...
That's the problem that certain schizophrenic patients may have, is that they don't have this reliance upon this safety net which says it's okay, you can go. They're constantly hesitating, they have sensorial trouble verifying. And we don't have that generally when we're healthy. And the beauty of these things that are on the wall here is that we don't have to ask that question. We can navigate these worlds, whether they're constructed or real or fake, whatever these concepts may be. The only thing that's ever real or fake is our perception. But okay, back to the paper or to any other, is that they make you forget. That they temporarily make you forget that you're looking at an artifice. When you have a sequence of images that becomes a film, it makes you even forget it faster that it is an artifice. With this photograph, you have this ontological part of the photograph on the wall, which will always tell you that it's an orphaned part of the real or the fake, real, but it's orphaned. It was a then and there. Even if it's an AI image, it's still a then and there. An AI-produced image would still be a then and there on the wall, regardless of the fact or whether we question ourselves and scratch our heads whether they were real or not. The difficulty with moving images is that it's on another level. We are believers. Most mammals, or warm-blooded beings, are believers. They need a certain speed of understanding the environment, and believing is so such an easy way of doing it. It's like you just go automatic. When you see these 25 frames per second, oh, I know it's not real. I know it's not real. Oh, I've forgotten about it. And I'm gone. I'm with the flow.
Can I ask you a question now? Because you are attached to reality yourself. I mean, you still use like people, you film them. You film trees, you do it also for the new work, the wood carver, help me?
Wood carver in the forest.
Voilà, a Canadian forest.
Yeah.
But this is a real guide. So there's something in you that still thinks it's important to, like, yeah.
It gets complicated because...
Yeah, but it's Frederick Falls to talk about reality.
Yeah, because talking about reality and not reality is tricky. Because from my point of view, where I stand, there's no such thing as... Hannah Arendt once said, reality is what's in your way. The weight that's in front of you, what's annoying you, what you have to get over. That's reality. And I kind of adhere to that. But with the woodcarver in the forest, we use a batch of 50 hours of, to make a long story short, it's a film about a guy carving spoons all his life, from morning to evening. And it goes back to the piece that I once did with Josse de Pauw, with this actor, in France, where we made the same film over and over again, but the only change was light. So it's the same thing. And it's a batch of 50 hours of real footage of this person. But we will train, it's a kind of very limited way of training an artificial intelligence model. A very manual way, because usually these models are trained in a very elaborate but automated way, and we don't do that. We first make a big effort in making like about, I think I told Frick, I want to have about 75 different films of this woodcarver. And then we will feed them to artificial intelligence techniques and relight, redo the action, change the character. So our character will gradually, I don't know by which degree, but will gradually become what you would then call fake, from real to fake. And my idea is that once this cycle of the woodcarver in the forest is ready, there's absolutely no distinction between what's real and what's fake.
It's going to be an open-ended piece,
yes.
I remember, so we will never know.
Yeah, and it's also
so frustrating.
I gave myself the liberty of calling it an end quit whenever we are too tired.
All right, but that's for June. Any other questions? Yeah.
You take images as the vehicle of what you want to express. We're speaking about drawings also. Could you express yourself also through a much freer medium, for example, literature, working with words?
I have a history of being notoriously, you don't notice this, but I have some sort of speech deficit, which is actually more of a thinking deficit, is that it's an asynchrony between the images and my vocals. They don't come. That's where I became a visual artist through.
What are you
You don't notice this now because I'm in my turf, but if it's about something else, it's kind of noticeable. And now, so that's why I was unable to write, because I always saw things faster than I could ever have. The technology of language and of speech, it's a technology like anything, other technology, and of writing is so sophisticated and is so, requires such a being bred with it that, I'm from the 1980s, I'm already the generation then that didn't have any patience. So that's why I needed to go on paper, and I needed to be able to go very fast and very quick.
Question of time again.
Yeah, and also of intelligence, of seeing things happening before you can express them. That's another thing. It's like it really, what you're mentioning is like becoming a writer, for example. I don't see how young artists or how young writers do it who haven't been trained thoroughly in the language of reading and writing from a very young age, because it's like I did with drawing. I was never good for anything else than that, so I was drawing and painting for sure since my age 8. But I don't understand how writers do that.
And still we have amazing writers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very gifted people.
But it was like, to answer your question, that was the motive behind my no other option.
Johan, I know him personally.
I would like to go back to the projection we have here in the room next door. You said it was in 2007?
Around 2007.
Yeah, around there. And talking about fake and reality, this, for me, what we saw there was has quite a new meaning, really, which you actually never put in it, because the times has changed, which is inherent of a work of art. It goes with the times, and I think you are rather categorically saying that you have quite a control of your work, because
No, you're right.
the way you were expressing yourself over there. But if we just go back to the room, and after all what you said, how it was constructed, and even to the astonishment of Frederick, that it was fake actually, that it was all a montage. Now this, what we see now, I don't think anybody who saw it in 2007 was looking at it as we do today.
You're absolutely right. There is, that's the thing about media, is that one generation sees them this way, the other actually. And this is something that as an artist you don't have under control. I might have maybe given a bit of a false impression that I have it under. No, I don't. I don't have it under control, but I'm very interested in seeing it again.
Yeah.
And you are absolutely right. It can be through various reasons. They can be technical, that can be cultural, which is basically the same. There can be a difference in grain, there can be difference in format, there can be just a distinction between a black and white and something else. You don't have that under control. And
what happened for me also in looking at this is that what I call the grandparents were going to sit down, one is already sitting down and the other one is going to sit down, actually look down. And all the others are looking up. It's like, you are like expecting something which gradually becomes the ball, which is in the center, but you're looking up to something, while that generation, as we were talking about generations, is actually, looking down. It's like it happened. We are not part of this future anymore, because looking up is, for me, like looking up to the future somewhere. And you talk about Chantal was talking about surveillance and everything, but it was, for me, it was more like this, how this thing was projecting something that actually in 2007 wasn't there, and that we now, at least for me, it was rather a confrontation in that sense.
There are, I think, two very interesting observations about the grandparents who need a chair to sit down into. They were very fit, if I remember well, but I do not remember the decision to put them in a corner. But it had to do something with dragging down something.
Because the statue next door is the big idea of socialism, which is just next to it. And I mean, for me, it was like working on.
But this is also the thing, like any artist, it's always the same. It's like it's the thing that I don't mean to say any expression about how I would think of myself as being a great artist or so, but and I assume many other artists have this, when you are age 23 or 24 and the things you did then, and then looking back at them many years later, you wonder, how did I know? Sometimes.
How did I do it? Why did I do it?
Or why? Yeah. And there has to have been some kind of language that was there. I'm not saying it was that special. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it was that. The myths of about artists make that. They make it like that. But like I remember, I saw a few years ago at the MOOC, I saw the first black and white film that I had made. It was called Ruurlo Bokurosho. It was back in 1996 or 1997. And that was interesting to see how has it aged. And I'm still interested to see, I think any artist would be interested to see that, have these work aged well or not.
Is it different for you because of the material you use? I mean, like painters, they're like trained in having their retrospectives, and like in old Luc Tuymans, we never ask the question, okay, how does it age?
Here is the thing, you never ask of a zombie how old is the zombie.
Oh my God, you hate me.
And no, I love painting, but you never, no, sorry, but they are the living dead, and they're great. I don't want to shoot them.
Yeah.
It doesn't, you don't have to try. They will get up again and they will continue walking.
That's the medium of resurrection.
That's the culture. That's what you get with painting. With a living technology like that's being used for politics and being used for commercials, for whatever, you don't have that. There you have a kind of different speeds. You have a competition going on. I always tried to treat new technologies as if they were old. And it's very important not to be, how you say, seduced by them. But yes, not to be, don't go after the dopaminergic aspect of those technologies, because you will fail. Then these technologies will get old, and the generation with it, and the next generation will say,
what's this?
Like, remember
remember grandfather?
Yeah. Remember this artist
AI
painting blue screen paint on the face, and then cleaning it off, and then like that making the first blue screen wipe. There was something about it, but the generation that looks at it now gets a bit stiff, thinks, okay, well done.
Can be difficult. Yeah. Okay, a last question maybe? Or a remark on the architect? There's a professor here, not to mention Professor Dirk de Meijer. Can you add something about Renaat Braam?
I actually have another question. I could connect with the remark. The two people on the chairs. When I saw the film, for a long time you see them only from the back, and afterwards the camera turns and you see them. But as long as we saw them from the back, they came across to me as like they were looking at the scene of the happy family, like we are watching this scene, and they're kind of in a similar position and bringing us into the scene in quite a similar way as this person in Christ at Emmaus, the Caravaggio painting, where the person is actually in the very same position, with the elbows up and the chair is slightly bent. I was wondering, since you're constructing these things, if in this constructions reference to culture,
the art of the zombies.
You make me think that indeed these two elderly people were there as kind of intermediate between us usually sitting on a chair and they also sitting down. But there was also certain masochistic punishment, like you will never be allowed to rest. Always in mid-air.
Right.
With the Algiers sections and the happy moment, there was another thing. I know one shouldn't say this, but there was a kind of corpulent young fellow. And I made him jump off a wall for the rest of his life, so to speak. Because he's going to fall down quite hard and he's kind of heavy. So these things that you do is which you just do because actually, I don't know, to be honest, if I don't have an iconography of desires of what I wanted to put into it exactly. But I think it's true that these two figures at the periphery, they are in between, like people playing in a ball, being in mid-air always, suspended, being in this kind of socialist utopia maybe. And then the circle around it of all these points of view which are coming together.
Maybe it would have been too much of a painterly reference.
But the problem is one should, I learned that a long time ago from Thomas Lieve, this friend that I had was a professor of art history at Princeton, who I gave a talk there a long time ago, and then he started a half-an-hour speech about, and he was right, I think, about the mistakes, the pitfalls that filmmakers can have when they want to marry painting and they want to become painters with other means.
Mm-hmm. But the same you can say about the painters. They want to be cinema. They want to make cinema, but as a matter of fact, their references are
painters that can be suspected of that, or painters who will have cinematic titles for their paintings.
Okay.
It's not a painting, it's an event.
Something more you want to add, David? Some good advice.
Good advice. Don't run under the tram. No, I don't know. It was a nice talk, so I'm very happy.
Thank you very much. Give him.
Thank you very much.